Tony,
episode
number.
Yay!
No, my special guest. No.
Yeah, we are here in the Cambridge office. Special recording for episode 28 with Huxley Kendell.
Hello. I can't believe first special guest and I butchered the introduction. We were close.
Yeah, well, close. But that's the Tonie and Tony show. It's free form. It's relaxing but interesting topics.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this time, it's not about an article. This time it's about something special. It's called Autopilot, and there will be articles on them.
They're coming.
Yeah, but
This is like a taster.
yeah, and we thought it would be really special that the father of Autopilot joined us on the Tonie and Tony show live at the Cambridge studios.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome, Huxley.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be good fun. And I think I'm looking forward to it because I think Autopilot's going to keep becoming more and more and more of what we're trying to do at Redgate. We've got more versions coming out. We've got more exciting stuff coming. So it's nice. We get to do this, and then we'll put some documentation out, and then it can get ripped to shreds by Tony, and then we'll see what.
Exactly. Give it a thorough going over. It's here to help users get started with Flyway, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, well, you tell us
Yeah,
why
so
you developed it.
it's, especially I think in the role that I came into, it was a try to be that technical advisor for the tool. And obviously I came in with the Flyway tool, and I think the Flyway tool, even when we had it 3-4 years ago, it was a good tool, but it's in that niche market, I think, that unlike our monitoring tool, which is really amazing, people are aware of that process and monitoring, they get that. A lot of people don't know how to do good database DevOps, which is complete.
It is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard because it involves people, it involves process changes, while monitor, well, you can run it out of the box,
Yeah.
you install your local agent and the stuff is monitored. And of course, I'm not saying that monitoring work or DBA work is simple. That's not what I'm saying. I'm more saying that a DevOps process, more people are involved, and changing that is hard. But Huxley, you came in as your role. What is your role?
So I'm a solution engineer at Redgate. So I'm one of the guys that is responsible for that is responsible for sort of bridging the gap between customers and sales. For both ends, I think so the sales guys can more effectively talk to the clients and make sure we're giving them the correct amount of support. It also means that for the customers that we're the person that's going to actually install the tools with them before they purchase, so they're comfortable with the tool and it makes sense to them. So you can kind of see why a tool designed to make using Flyway easier might have come from my job, because after a certain amount of time you realize, like you said, with the DBAs, the monitoring it's a part of their job already. I'm either doing it right now by hand or I'm going to use the monitor tool, and that makes sense. A good DBA might have never done database DevOps. He might have never done CI/CD deployment. So it's completely new. It's completely brand new fresh idea for them. And we're doing it on databases that have been around for like 20 years. So it's really tough. And it's not a sign of a DBA being bad at their job. They don't know how to code some 5,000 YAML pipeline, or they don't know good branching strategies, or how to go from craziness to perfection.
Yeah.
So I think from me with the Autopilot stuff, where it came from sort of 2 years ago was, how can we show them something that is good, teach them what is best practice, and then the Flyway tool just looks great, because it is great alongside that journey, rather than it being rip this part of your process out, rip this out, build this from scratch, and this poor customer is like on day 2 just being like, I just wanted to see how great the tool was, and I'm too blocked by lack of expertise or whatever it might be.
Well, you've got to convince DBAs that the destination is somewhere they want to be, because obviously they're risk averse. They've got to look after, protect their data. You can't have, if you're going to do more frequent deployments, this is where you're moving towards, smaller, more frequent deployments that you can do online. That has to be a good destination from there. They have to be secure in that. You're going to have to build in the checks to make sure that's not going to cause them problems.
That's the hard bit.
Yeah, and like Huxley mentioned, in yourselves, it's DBA, but there are more people involved in DevOps than only the DBA.
Of course, the developers,
And that makes it harder. So you have to get all the people on board. And while you're still exploring the features of Flyway and what is Git, branching strategies, etc., you can get very confused.
You can get lost in that detail.
And how do you get all your people on board then? So having something like Autopilot, and when I first read about Autopilot, I thought, is this another AI tool?
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with AI. It's just guiding you, like.
Well, and so the premise for everybody, it started with just Flyway. That was my 2.5 years ago. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't go through that lengthy process with the customers because it's not fair to them, it's not fair to us, and we want to show them and teach them, and we don't want to just give them a great tool. We want to say, we want to give you this tool, I'm going to show you how to use the tool. So we started with the Flyway tool. That did really well. The team sort of expanded out to then be a Redgate Autopilot. So the premise of whether it's for the test data manager or whether it's for Flyway is that click a button, we are going to install the tool for you. We are going to create for you a sandbox environment to use. We are then going to guide you through what the different aspects of the tool are, how it makes sense, why it happens, and what is the best practice around that. So for a client thinking about moving to DevOps, it's okay, I don't know anything and I've only got an hour of my time free. Click, oh, actually I can see very clearly it's going to do this, then this, then this. So it's that sort of, we always call it like a tutorial level. If you play any video games, it's for before I chuck you into the actual game, here's the mechanics, here's what you could do, here's how that works. Let me teach you the different things that you might come across so that when we do chuck you in, it's a little bit easier for them. So that was the big premise. So for me, what we're seeing now is that we can give it to a client and just say, do this. And like I said, there's so many different people that are involved in the process, and what we notice over time is they're almost sort of like holding their process together barely at the moment. It's you know, I don't know what Git, I don't know what Dev, but I know that I'm deploying by hand, the devs are writing the scripts, and yeah, it's kind of sucks, it's not great, but they know it. They know it. They know that process, they know it inside out. They hate it, whatever, but when we come in and we're like, amazing, we're going to do this, and it's 1 million features, this guy's like, I don't have the bandwidth to even think about letting go of this and giving up on my safety of production to think about moving.
Exactly right.
To that.
Yeah.
And I looked at the documentation. I've not played with it yet, but there are several ways of applying this autopilot in your sandbox. Can you tell a little bit about it?
Yeah.
It's fast track, back up and running.
Back up and running.
And then
state-based. Yeah. So we have, it depends on who you are. And this is one of the big parts of my job, and not just my job. The beauty with the autopilot, by the way, is, I don't know if you would have seen it like 2 years ago, even when I got the award for about 1.5 years, 2 years ago.
I saw it in Seattle.
Yeah.
You were doing it live in the stage.
Yeah. Back then it was okay. I will say, once we expanded the team with someone like Chris Hawkins and a few of my other amazing colleagues, then it became stunning and really polished and amazing. And I think that's a big call out to that team-based way of doing it, because he started deleting my code and I started deleting his code. So it became like that. But yeah, so it's an interesting one because it's got all those different models, and one of the important parts of my job and Chris Hawkins' job and the other SEs is saying to the Redgate, it's well, actually, this is how customers want to do DevOps now. This is what they want. So state-based, making that revival was a big part of the development team and a big part of what we were doing. So we want to be able to make sure that with the autopilot, if there's a way you can use Flyway, is there a way we can teach users how to do it straight away?
Yes.
Because
it has an opinion about the sort of process you could use, you could set up. So if I'm on the fast track to Flyway, what are the first 2 hurdles it's going to help me get over?
So it's
from your experience.
And that's a big one. What we're noticing quite a lot is when we do if someone wants to test the tool, for Monitor you go to the demo site, great, there it is. For Flyway, it's like, well, how do I quickly test deploying, source control in dev, deploying to test, QA, production through a pipeline in my hour break? So the first big hurdle it's going to do is it's going to create for you, wherever you want it to, environments either that we can create for you that are pretty good. I think that I made it, so I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Or we can model it off of one of their databases. That's the big difference between Backup as baseline and fast track. Fast track is just instant fast track to success. We're going to make the databases for you.
You've given them a practice database, set it up in an environment,
so
get going.
Ideally, there's a 10-minute video out there for how to do every single part of the Flyway Autopilot. You click a button and it will just say, all right, I've made for you a dev test. They're called this. It's already hooked up to your Flyway project. So if you want to just see the value of Flyway, but I don't want to spend a couple hours doing the installation, I click a button, there it is, I can show it to my boss. Oh my God, look, it's writing my scripts for me. This took me 6 hours yesterday and it took me 2 seconds today. And the boss is like, yeah, that seems great, amazing.
But from a technical point of view, where does it run all those sandboxes? Is it in the cloud?
On their infrastructure. So if they have cloud, we have scripts that they can run that will just create for them.
Right, so it can go anywhere they like it.
It can go on
cloud.
We have some guides for if they want to do MI, managed instances, how they could quickly make up a managed instance of one of our databases themselves. But then the normal approach would be, if you're a developer, you probably have a server somewhere in the org that you can go to and mess around in. That's the place that we'll do it. We'll run that there, create the environment. So if I'm just a developer, I'm just a DBA, someone in between, click, there it is. What happens when I do this?
So I don't have to worry that Redgate will see everything I do. It's just in my, the autopilot is for me.
It's a good question to bring up. Because when I built it, I was like, no one's going to ask me that. And then I get asked it, I'd say every week. It's like, you can't see this. I was like, no. We actually had to go through so many to get that. Yes. You will notice it in the guides. I'm glad you mentioned it. You notice it in the guides because there'll be bits where it's very clearly I didn't write it. I wrote the documentation and it was maybe some poor security documentation. And then you can see when someone else has come in and added all these warnings.
Yes.
We've made sure that the repositories that you create are private. We noticed that was something that could happen.
I did notice those warnings, make it private, then that's it.
Now, I think it's pretty important because there are a lot of on-premise customers and there are reasons for that. Healthcare, finance, all kind of industries that want the data on their own premise. And if there's suddenly this wise autopilot solutions comes out of the box and it runs in seconds, then people could worry, where's my data going? Is it I'm giving all my data away to Redgate so they can do their autopilot thing?
Yeah.
But it isn't.
It's not doing that.
No. And the thing is, of course, that people sometimes are afraid to fail. So if it doesn't work, does Huxley is looking from this big monitoring side, oh, this autopilot is failing. No, he isn't.
No, and that's the security aspect is you don't think when you're building that, because for me this was the first ever time doing like a greenfield project. There's a good talk at some point, I think at PASS or something in a year or so, which is showing the evolution of how the autopilot got built. But that first, you do have luckily the security team here are so good that they were like, no, and sort of started ring fencing things that needed to be changed. But we don't really care about any of it. The benefit for something like this with me would be, even with the errors and if it breaks, that's what we want. That's what we want with the autopilot. That's my go-to, is one of the things, and maybe sales won't appreciate me saying this, but it's case in case for all software. If it's software like that, you're probably going to fail on your first try. Yeah. If you've managed to install a big tool like Flyway, which has huge ROIs and it's going to do so much for the business, and you've managed to click, I get nervous when I do that on big software. When I click and nothing went wrong and I'm like, I've done something, it's going to come up. So it's going to happen. And it doesn't happen because the tool's not good. It just happens because you go the wrong way, you go the wrong path, or you do something wrong in the YAML or something like that. So we fully expect users to have a learning curve of learning the tool. For us with the autopilot, it's don't put it on your own databases. Don't spend huge amounts of time going through that learning curve. Let's actually we'll do it. Click this button, we'll give you a sandbox environment to do that learning in.
Yeah, I think that's where it helps. I think a lot, what I found, is that there is a lot to take. There's a lot of different commands. You've got to understand what the schema model stuff's about, the generating scripts. What you can do with autopilot is it takes away all the stuff that creates noise around that, like just setting up personal access tokens and pipelines and connecting to Git. All that's kind of, it's carefully explained, so you're not going to stumble over it. And then you can really start focusing on the value of Flyway.
And one of the things, I'll get some screenshots for you so we can put it on the video when we put the video out.
Okay, cool.
One of the things that we've been working on then is what we're calling like a quest book of what we're doing. So it's inside the Git repo. Benefit of something like Flyway or for something like test data management, but we'll focus on the Flyway one is, look up Flyway if you don't know what, I don't need to do use the autopilot. That would be your sales pitch itself. It's a huge tool. It's going to write scripts for you. It's going to deploy automated, do your checks and balances. It's going to do a million different things, and it's really, really valuable. But for me, with the autopilots, it's just being able to hold their hand, which I think is the really important bit for me.
But you also told us off camera that it's no longer just Flyway Autopilot.
Yep.
There's more coming.
So we already have a test data management one out.
Oh, it's already out?
That's out fully. So we have the same concept for Flyway that we have for test data management. So and we've got a monitor online demo site. So we're slowly moving towards more of we can do it for the whole portfolio. The important bit for me is if you're watching this and thinking, well, actually, subsetting could be cool to me. I don't know necessarily if some people don't want to talk to sales. That's understandable. Some of us are big nerds and we want to just click and run the tool and do it ourselves.
Self-starters.
And that's okay. So for them, being able to just click, I don't want to talk to you, I want to see the product run. Something like TDM Autopilot, what it's going to do is create for you some databases with data inside of it and say, look, this is subsetting. I'm going to run this command. It runs it. It then lets you see the data getting a subset down. It will then classify and then mask all that data for you and guide you through that. And what I was going to mention before, what we're working on now is what we're calling quests, which sort of goes a bit further. We have loads for Flyway, which would be, there's like developer quests. It's okay, well, what if you want to partition a table? What if you want to do unit testing? What if you want to do synchronization checks? We have individual quests inside the autopilots that will say, for instance, with the first one we did was referential data. Sweet. So you might have an interesting niche scenario where you do lots of referential data development in dev. You change that data quite a lot. You want to see how Flyway is going to handle that. Inside the quest book folder in the repo, there's a static data folder. And inside of that, we've got a SQL file that will create a table with lots of data in it. And then a markdown guide inside of that with some guides and pictures that will then guide the user how best to handle static data.
There you go.
Well, I asked the question before of the data that will go back to Redgate and it will run locally, but you're talking about the quests now, and my mind says gamification, so maybe it might be interesting to have a little bit telemetry going back that you completed the quest, so you can have some kind of award.
Yeah, some sort of limited telemetry.
Yeah, and then you have I've got 5 quests, so I'll get a
At the
badge
moment, I'm just doing it trust-based. If anyone does the quest, then just let me know. But yeah, that.
And then you get a badge?
We've got badges. I'm at the moment just giving out stuff. I'm very malleable. If someone walks up to me at the moment and says, "Oh, I used the autopilot," you've already won me.
You're in.
You've already won me. I'm like, cool. What do you want? And I'm just giving out. But no, like that. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Microsoft has that on the learn.microsoft.com. You can do different modules. You get stars and badges. I don't know. Points.
It's something we'd love to do, and we've tried it at a few events. We're going to give it another go at a few more events. With Bits is coming up, so we might give it a go at that, which is trying to get people to come over to the booth and try a couple of our quests and stuff. But more so, I think for me, it's for by yourself. Do it. Send me some proof, and we'll give you something like that. Would be really cool. Because the other thing that we're noticing is that this is really useful. It's useful for the value prop side of Flyway. Is Flyway going to be valuable to me? That is a question as a Redgate employee that I'm happy to say, hopefully. None of us are going to be like, yes, every time. There are people who are going to be on niche, but maybe it won't. But for me, we want to help you there. So if you're thinking, actually the way that we develop and deploy could be improved, I want that journey to be quick. And I want you to decide by yourself, with my help, is it going to be a useful fit? And for me, that means not dedicating 20 hours, it means dedicating an hour or 2. And that's what the other part's great for. But the other side to that is, a big concern that you don't think about is that the end user sat there being like, cool, this is great with my one guy, but how the hell are we going to do this for the 20, 25, 30 developers?
Team, yeah.
I've got 30 developers that are going to need to use it as well. How do we do that? And what we're doing at the moment is saying to them, well, each of them can have their own autopilot. It's going to have their own quest milestones. They're going to have access to ourselves. But realistically, what they should be able to do is you should be able to have a week or so where you let them loose on the autopilot, get feedback at the end of the week, and then we can engage how confident everyone feels and how far they got and where they feel like they might need a bit of support. Same thing for when you have a new employee. If I already have Flyway up and running, I've got it in, I get a new employee 6 months later. What I don't want to do is be like, have fun, use the Flyway tool. It's more of a, all right, for your first week, mate, just use the sandbox, use the autopilot.
Use the autopilot, yeah.
Use that to help yourself.
But is the intent of autopilot that you'll get them, each of the individual team members started and understanding how they should use Flyway, but is it then going to help them bridge to team-based development where they might want to start using feature branches?
Yeah. And that's what we've been doing, is all those little quests as well, kind of trying to help guide that into them. So because with Flyway, where we've moved to and where I've been pushing sales, me and my colleagues have the luxury of being able to sort of push sales into ways we think we should be approaching customers with the tools. And I think the approach we have taken the entire time is that what we're not going to do is either gut and replace, which means we're going to give you a Redgate way of using Flyway, because as you know, one customer's joy is going to be another customer's hell when it comes to the way they want to deploy. And the thing for us is that we're going to meet customers in the middle, which means for something like Flyway, what it needs to be is what we're calling more of like a Swiss Army knife of features that I can push down that I don't need and pull out that I do need. So I can't say to a customer, this is Flyway, it does this, and show them an end-to-end model, because they might be like, well, that bit makes no sense and that makes no sense. So what we're noticing with Flyway is we want someone like the autopilot to just be able to say, look at these core features, look at how you could do these features. So when they're done with the autopilot, ideally what we see is a bunch of developers at the end be like, oh, we could get it to do it like this.
They have their own ideas about how they could get it to
warp it to work like this. And I think sometimes customers will show me what they've put, like, oh, I don't know if you're going to like it. I'm like, no, this is perfect, because this is your version of Flyway. This is your, like, they think that they've warped it and wrenched it, but that's what it wants to be done. It wants to be worked like that.
Flyway is a Swiss Army knife, is exactly the right analogy. That's what it is.
Oh, Huxley just stole my last question, but I'm still going to...
You're going to ask it anyway, you're going to plow on.
Anyway, because,
good man.
Yeah, so if I come across stuff that looks like a quest, can I submit it to you?
Yeah, that's what... a really good point, because what we've been doing is when we do the proof of concepts is now with those quests, I'm so behind on my work that this quest should have been out weeks ago, but the aim with the quest is that we're going to put the generics out there, and when I do proof of concept directly with a client, if they feel like we're missing something, either they build it or I build it, we put it back in. What I want it to, how we're going to do it, I'm not sure, but what we want it to be is that sort of recursive network of, so another customer, feel free to put a PR into that repo, and if I see it's a quest, we'll test it and put it in. But what I want it to be is well, actually, this was the autopilot, that got my customers to 80% of what they needed, and then look at this marketplace of all the other quests that other people have needed to do, and they've wrote some SQL, and they've wrote an MD that says that this is how they did that, and what I'd love is this big sort of compendium of things you can do with Flyway and
pieces of inspiration about how you might solve this particular, I like it, I do.
But to be honest, that was my last question, and maybe you have a last question, because Huxley is not only behind on his work, we're also, I think, a little bit over time for the normal Tonie and Tony show, but this is a special one, of course.
We are. No, that's fine.
Do you have a last question for Huxley?
You're building up this last question.
Yeah. So we can say no.
Actually,
Huxley was heard a direct quote saying he is a big fan of the Tonie and Tony show. Yeah. Tell us more about that.
I think that these are important.
That's a good question.
I think that these kind of shows are important because, one, you're taking the documentation, and I do like the fact that one day I might see you roasting my own documentation. So I think it keeps us on our toes a little bit for how we make the documentation more up to date and more fresh and more useful. But for me, it's been really important because once I started seeing yours, it's actually reading it back and thinking, are we serving our customers through documentation, or are we ticking a box of, yeah, we've done it? And at Redgate, I like to think we're going down, but we're trying to serve the customers. But
Yes.
you look at other software companies, and I think they do go down the, well, tick the box. Yeah, we've got documentation. There it is. And I read it, I'm like, this is awful.
Yeah. Well, it is, of course, it's documentation, and on top of that, it's product learning, which is actually just an implementation of the documentation, and there should be both there.
That
Absolutely.
to me was the implementation of documentation. That's what it made me look at and really think about, especially when I've just released a load of backup Oracle for Autopilot today.
I saw it actually, yeah.
That's the important bit, is that I think every company needs a little Tonie and Tony show. It's but does our documentation actually end up to an implementation that actually makes sense? And that's the bigger gap. That's why sometimes I feel like it is just a box has been ticked, because I'm like, this is documentation. You have talked about what we need to talk about, but this doesn't give me what I need to actually get it up and running. And there are ways that Redgate could be better at that, more so I see it at other companies, but it's needed. It's needed, because otherwise are you serving the customers?
So I'm tasting that Huxley will no longer only write documentation, but also will submit a product learning article soon.
I do.
I sense it's coming.
Yeah, I feel this.
I feel it.
I thought selfishly.
Episode 30.
I thought
Huxley.
selfishly, because I have I do have.
He's now trying to sell it us.
Yeah.
Live
I
on
already
camera.
did it. No, but I do have a website here that I was going to submit a few to, but the blogs on here are a little.
Oh, you got your own website, of course.
A little bit slow, yeah.
So you're now plugging your own in our show. Yeah, this is getting worse.
No. But we do have a few on here. I was gonna.
Let me take a look at what you've got, yeah.
There's one that I'm particularly proud of, which is referential data for Flyway, using merge statements for referential data.
Right.
And I think for that one, I'll let you two dissect it by yourself and let me know what you think about that. But it is got implementation as well.
That is a good idea. I think that we can do some other blogs, because it is the Tonie and Tony show, and it's about Redgate product implementations. And
Exactly. As long as it's about, that's what it's about. It's like,
yeah, we're not
how do I
bound
actually
to
get the
product
most
learning
out?
only.
Yeah.
I
proper
think you slowly drift towards the guest in the middle, and you're just grilling him for the documentation. And I think you're like, well, do it, implement it.
yeah, show us how it actually works. Yeah. That's what we try to do on Tonie and Tony.
So I think we're going to close this episode 28, the special one.
Thank you very much, Huxley, for joining us.
Very, very much for having me.
It was an honour for you, obviously, and
A big honor. And it's going to be a big honor for the viewers when they get to use the autopilot.
Yeah. Go out, download, clone the repo, submit PRs if you have quests for Huxley. If you have questions for Huxley, reach out to him. And we see you on the next episode of the Tonie and Tony Show.
see you soon.
Bye.